that, read this Romans 14 and 16 real quick, because we're going to get into what you said.
Romans 14 and 16, it says, let not then your good be evil spoken of. For the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Ghost.
Right. So when we come out here is to teach the righteousness, peace, and joy of the kingdom of heaven. Right. Through the Holy Ghost. Now, the only way we can do that is by presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice. But why should we continue to do it even when oftentimes in this life it seems like there's no reward? You know what I'm saying? Why should we keep going even though it feels like sometimes it can amount to nothing? You know, can you give me Galatians 6 and 9, right? Because this is one of my favorite scriptures to kind of like, you know, push me and keep me going, right? And can you give me the book of Romans chapter 10? We're gonna start at verse number 1, right? So
the book of Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not.
That's why we got to continue to come out here and present our bodies as a living sacrifice. Because sometimes we come out here, we don't talk to maybe one person for about 10 seconds, you know? But sometimes we come out here and we have days where we talk to a multitude of people. Or we have days where sisters like yourself come out here and say, hey, I'm curious, you know, what's your mission? And the reason why it's important that we keep going is because, again, the kingdom of heaven is righteousness, joy, and peace. We want to obtain that, and we want others to have an opportunity to obtain that. So the only way we could do that is if we continue to use the gifts that the Lord gave us to come out here and teach His word, you know, without our opinions on it, and let them make the decision to follow the Lord or not. You know, it's whether they hear or forbear, right, with us. You know, it doesn't. We're not going to sit up here and chase somebody 5 miles down the street. Our job is to come out here and give the message of good news, revelation, all that stuff, right? And let the Lord do what He wants to do with them, you know, at the end of the day. But there's a reason to that, right? Let's read Romans 10, start at verse number 1.
This is Romans 10 and verse number 1. It says, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. For they being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God.
So with those talents that the Lord gave us, right, we come out here to use it because we know that in today's time, people have established their own sense of what righteousness is unto them, and not by the standard of what the Lord set for us to have to follow. So that's why when we come out here, we teach people different things. We teach them that you have to keep the commandments. We teach them that, yeah, even though you feel like it is a thing that you can be saved with grace, we agree, but there's also a work that has to be applied to us attaining that righteousness, joy, and peace, right? You following what I'm saying thus far?
And then also on the flip side too, you know, we present our bodies as living sacrifices by coming down here and allowing ourselves to be used by God. But it's also people like you that allow yourself to be presented as a living sacrifice as well. You get the conviction to come over here, not necessarily to talk to us, but listening to God,
Right.
leaving yourself vulnerable to talk about God. Not a lot of people do that, especially a lot of people that look like us. You don't see them normally on a Saturday night on a street corner talking about the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So that in itself lets you know that you're allowing yourself to be presented and to be used by God in its entirety right there as well.
Yeah, obedience is definitely a learned trait.
Learn behavior for sure.
Yeah, and then to hear it like a divine obedience is something different, so you have to have a certain type of awareness.
To obey is better to sacrifice, you know? Because if you wasn't obedient to the Father to come down here and ask, maybe the message that He had for you, you wouldn't have never got it. And then you would have cursed God and died, all because you didn't obey, you know, His voice. You can read what you got.
Proverbs 20 and 24. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? And I'm really just reading that just because, like, a lot of times we can plan out our day and how it's gonna go, but at the end of the day, the Most High He can, you know, direct your path, and you don't know why. You know, somebody's telling you to go here, or something's telling you to go here or go there. Then it wasn't part of your plans, but our goings are literally of the Lord. So something, you can't touch conviction, right? You can't see conviction, but something as spiritual as conviction can actually move your body, right? And that's really the goings of the Lord, you know what I'm saying? over here, right? To hear whatever. It might have just been to confirm your path because he brought out Romans, you know, and you was like, damn, I was just reading Romans, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of times he'll give us, if we feel like we're slipping into a place to where I need a little bit more confirmation from you, he'll give us that confirmation. But like he said, we got to be able to listen and follow him first for him to give us that confirmation, or we'll just be wandering, you know what I'm saying, and never getting that confirmation. So we got to be tapped in what the Bible calls discernment.
That's true. How long y'all been doing this?
5 years. Yeah. We've been here downtown Macon for going on 4 years. So since December 2021, I think that's when we started coming out. But yeah, it's been a real journey. You know, again, you got to be obedient to the Spirit and present yourself as a living sacrifice, because there's a lot of people that's out here, like you said, that look at us funny for being the only colored people on the corner talking about the Bible. You know, you don't see that too often. I know y'all said that before, and that's why it's important, and that's why it kind of motivates us in a sense, because it's not a commonality, and it should. You know, this shouldn't be a rare occurrence that you see brothers like us, and you got brothers that teach the Bible like us all over and do the same thing we do all over the world. It's just that in certain communities, we're trying to get it to be more common than it has been.
Y'all do like Bible study?
Yeah. Matter of fact,
that tag.
yeah, that tag coming in handy. Look, you scan this tag.
What a full circle moment.
Yeah, see,
Right?
You
Look,
put your pots on.
you influenced us and we ain't even know.
Right.
I forgot how you even do it. I'm just supposed to.
This man's going. This man's going to the Lord right
Yeah.
here.
Android.
She the whole reason why we got these tags.
It don't work on
Phone with
Android.
me.
You got Instagram though?
Uh-huh.
Type in. You got the cheap tag.
I'm gonna get some cards too, King, so we can just in case somebody do got a job, we can get some
Yeah.
cards.
We got to get a QR
We do
code.
got Instagram, Facebook, and we got YouTube. We do our Bible studies on YouTube.
Okay.
We usually go YouTube live, and so then we'll have like we had a YouTube live discussion today, and we went over the history of like the Chaldeans and Babylon and some of that stuff, and kind of connected it with stuff that we see today, right? So that's the kind of lives that we have, and also like we were telling your dad when he came down here that we are, just like what he just said, targeting those marginalized people.
Yeah.
And we're telling them that our ancestors are the ancestors of this book, and they're not just
Right.
figurative people.
Yeah.
That they actually go back to a bloodline, and we actually do have a history. And even though they've tried to hold it back from us, right, knowledge has increased like the Bible prophesied, and we're starting to learn more and more each day.
That's what was going to be one of my questions. Like, in your journey, I guess you could say, is it more so just learning from an identity from a physical or spiritual sense? You know,
Both.
both. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think, well, for me, I don't know how to do one without the other. Because I have physical challenges all the time with urges, emotions, thoughts, like, and it all ties together, like, you know.
Okay, I want to give you a couple because there's more that we can definitely go into, but I want to give you something that immediate, right? Give me the book of 2 Corinthians 10 and 13.
What's
right?
your name?
Foster.
Foster?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ashley.
Ashley. Ashton.
Ashton.
What's your name? Twin.
Austin,
Austin.
like
Ashton.
Texas.
Yes, ma'am. So 2 Corinthians 10 and 13. Give me that Romans 7. That Romans 7 that you just brought out the other day, right? So this is something that we've been talking about, even our brother right here, Brian. We've been talking about this.
Can't forget the cameraman. We appreciate you.
We've been talking about this for the last couple of days, you know. Something that Paul has been teaching about in Romans chapter 6, right? So one of the church world, they misunderstand Paul a lot because of the way he may speak, right? And some of the things he may say and the way he may say it. But we have to remember that, one, the word of God is not going to contradict itself. Regardless of what anybody may say, you always have to understand the context so that way you can understand the message. So the message we're getting into right now is talking about, you know, the sin. Like you said, sometimes you have desires and urges that you try to resist, you know, and I think all people do.
Right.
And it's important to know that, right? So let's read this real quick. Hold on, wait. Go back. I think it's 1 Corinthians. Wait. Yeah. It's 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. Sorry. 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. I said 2 Corinthians 13. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's it right there.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 13.
Uh-huh.
There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man.
Uh-huh.
But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it.
Right. So the Lord always is going to give us a way to escape anything that we may face, right? He's going to give us the strength to be able to handle the challenges. A lot of people like to think that he's just going to take the challenge off of us completely. That's not necessarily true.
Right.
The truth is that he's going to give us ways to bear these challenges that we've been faced with. And that's what makes it easier on us. Not the absolute removal of it, but the strength to be strong to carry it. You see what I'm saying? So what Paul is talking about right here, everything that you've been through, you know, physically, even in the spiritual sense, right? It's not uncommon. Every man has faced and dealt with the same trials and tribulations and challenges that you, Sister Ashley, face and deal with, right? But the reason I'm reading this specific one is because it goes on to the line of speaking on how we live our lives according to sin, right? But that's why I wanted brother to go to Romans 7 real quick. And I'm gonna try to make it quick, but I know it's gonna rain. I don't want to mess up your pavilion, you know.
You already know what's messed up.
you just have to cover your head. Yeah, you just have to cover your head.
I'll take a little bit. It's too late though.
No,
Actually,
man,
it's too
I'm
late.
sorry.
It's a little worse than I take it off.
Look.
That hat
It don't have a ring around
Look,
it.
Yeah.
you just hold it over like this.
I might as well thug it.
Yeah.
It's okay. I really like the rain. It just depends on the hairstyle.
Oh, you're right about that. Now go give me the book of Romans chapter 7. Start at verse number 1. Yeah, start at verse 1. Romans 7 and 1. I just want to make a point really quick.
Romans 7 and 1, it says, Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know
Know
the
the
law,
Uh-huh.
how that the law has dominion over a man as long as he liveth.
So I wanted him to start right here, and I want to say this because, again, the reason that a lot of people face these battles is because the Lord gave us a law to follow that told us that this is wrong and this was wrong, right? Matter of fact, jump down in verse number 7, right? Romans 7 and 7.
If it get too bad, we really
Romans
could
7 and
move down
7,
right
it
there.
says, What shall we say then? Is the law sin?
Now, is the law of God bad for us because it points out things that make us, you know, or it points out things that we shouldn't be doing and our flesh desires to do, right?
God forbid.
God forbid. The law is not bad. Why?
Nay, I had not known sin but by the law.
Uh-huh.
For I had not known lust, except the law had said, Thou shalt not covet.
So what Paul is teaching here is that, again, people try to equate that the laws of God are wrong because they put man into a box. You know, I can't fulfill my desires because the law tells me I can't. And they try to paint the picture that the laws of God are bad. In reality, the laws of God are good. And that's the reason why I feel like you have these challenges that you face is because there's a law, right, in your mind spiritually that you know about that maybe doesn't want you to do something or does want you to do something. And that's where a lot of people's vices and fights come from. That's where that temptation that we read about in 1 Corinthians come from, is people have a law in their mind that they want to serve, but they just need to know which one they actually need to serve, right? So this is where you come in. Go down to Romans 7, and you can take the reins from there real quick. It's one of your points.
I'll start at verse 21. It says, I find then a law that when I would do good, evil is present with me. Verse 22, for I delight in the law of God after the inward man, but I see another law in my members warring against the law of my mind. So like you were saying, just being human, we have urges, we have temptations and stuff like that, right? But we're trying to get to this point and understand and know that we're not subject to that law of our flesh anymore, right? Verse 23, it says, but I see another law in my members warring against the law of my mind and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of death? I thank God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then, here's the point. Then with the mind of myself, I serve the law of God, but with the flesh, the law of sin, right? So when we become new creatures, I know you say you're figuring this stuff out right now for your own, right? When we become new creatures, those urges seem to disappear. Why? Because with our mind, we switch over from serving the law of sin
to the law of God, and it becomes natural, right? There's another scripture in Romans that said, how can we who are dead to sin
Live any longer
live
therein.
any longer therein, right?
Romans 6:2.
And it also goes into saying, when we were enslaved to sin, to our sin, we were servants to it. But now being slaves to Christ, we're now servants to Christ, right? And so a lot of times we got to get out of ourselves, and we got to understand we're not living for ourselves. And what that comes is, like you said, learning to be obedient, to take ourselves out of the equation and to submit to everything that this book says, right? This book says, hey, God doesn't want us to do X, Y, and Z. It's our job to not do X, Y, and Z. Why? Because it's the same relationship we have with our own earthly mothers and fathers, right? When we're little and they tell us not to do something, at the time we might not know why they're telling us not to do it, but we know that they mean it for our good, which God, he tells us over and over again that these commandments are for our good, right? These commandments are not grievous because he knows more than we know, right? He's our heavenly father. We're his children. We're still babies to him. He's just trying to look out for us. And who knows our bodies better than the person who created
Yeah,
it?
it's the little thing that I actually used to have written down somewhere, but who but God should know you better than yourself. And just so you know too, like my temptation is not so much love. It might be like I'm fat.
Yeah.
So it might be like
it can be
cheese.
anything. It can
might
be
be fried
anything.
chicken.
Yeah. But see, lust is not even just sexual. You know what I'm saying? Lust can be anything that you desire. So that's why when you read Temptations, even if it's something super bad or something just very light, at the end of the day, it encompasses the same thing because either way it goes, it's a
The
lustful
urge
desire.
and the desire
It's
is
a
still there for you to try to control.
Yeah.
I
Like
mean,
you
and
said.
even things like, anxiety, depression,
Yep.
anger issues, and it, the whole gamut, you know what I'm saying?
So you out here
Sure.
hitting people in the head over a cup of milk.
No.
Oh man. No, I got one too. So go ahead and read yours first, bro. Go ahead.
Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 12.
Get out.
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Yep.
Just reading that to say what you said earlier was on point. Like, I can't see it no other way. It's physical and spiritual, right?
Right.
Because the spiritual plays out in the physical. So even though we may be dealing with anxiety or depression, sexual lust, poor discipline in our life, we struggle with restraint, stuff that, every human, especially young adult, kind of goes through, even though we're dealing with those, forgiveness, anger towards people and things of that nature, right? All of that is spiritual, right? Once we understand it's not a person that's offending me, it's that spirit that's
on
working.
that person.
Yeah,
Right,
on that
most
person.
definitely.
I can't blame that person. I gotta hear that person out. I gotta try to make it better because he said, "Blessed are the peacemakers,
Yeah.
for they're gonna inherit the kingdom." Right? So once you understand it's all spiritual, even when that depression does come on you, you like, hold up, this is just a spiritual attack. This ain't who I am. I shouldn't be thinking like this. These ain't real thoughts. Right? Once you start thinking, oh, this is all spiritual, that's when you can start conquering self-discipline. Right? There's certain things that I was able to cut out my life cold turkey because I understood at that point it's not me. Like, that's all, it's a spiritual attack. Once you understand, like it says principalities, right? There's, for example, there's certain highways and interstates that you'll pass by that always have accidents. They'll be, you ever wonder why there's a whole bunch of crosses and bows and candles in one certain area, but you go down the street, it's nothing, but it just happens here all the time?
Yeah.
It's certain principalities or princes of the air spiritually that have dominion over certain spots. So that's why we have to cover ourselves in prayer, because these things have dominion on earth. We're not in the kingdom of heaven yet, right? So just like that, there's principalities of anxiety and depression that's linked to some of the stuff that we may watch, some of the stuff that we may eat and things of that nature.
Yeah.
They hop on us, and if we don't know that they spirits or a spiritual attack, we're gonna be susceptible to it. And we're gonna give in and thinking it's just me. Nobody. But once we understand it's a spiritual battle and it plays out in the physical, life gets a lot easier.
Right. When you talk about music, like, I joke a lot, but a lot of people, I got a lot of friends, and they'll be going through their little bouts and whatnot through life, and be going through depression and stuff. And the first thing I tell them, man, y'all need to stop listening to that Rod Wave.
Right.
Bro,
Stop listening to that young boy.
always be in depression all the
Your
time.
hair, yeah.
Y'all keep listening to him, y'all gonna stay in
With my
depression.
heart on ice, heart on ice.
I know he sound good and all of that, but you know sometimes, but it's the little things like that sometimes where you might not even notice something like that affecting you as much as it can. But like the brother was saying, man, with the way principalities work, the spiritual warfare is a real thing and it's very powerful, and it's not in your face, but it does, you know, kind of order your steps in a little bit and get caught up in it. Just like on the right hand side, you were convicted to come talk to us, or you're convicted to do the right thing, whatever it may be, right? There's also conviction that happens on the left hand side too. And we got to be able to spot it, and you know, the Bible talks about casting down imagination.
Read that.
Oh, wait, I was like, little cook.
Read that.
He got that.
It.
2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 3.
The brother stepping on toes out here, man.
For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh.
Right. We don't war after the flesh, right? Why?
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
Are carnal.
Are not carnal,
Okay.
but mighty through God to pulling down of strongholds,
Keep reading.
casting down imaginations,
Uh-huh.
and every high thing that exalteth itself
Right.
against the knowledge of God,
Right.
and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ.
Right. Hey, we got to bring in those captivities of thoughts that try to get us to do the wrong thing. You know, y'all believe in the Bible too?
Yeah.
Right. So one thing we trying to do out here is teach people that we got to not only captivate those thoughts that try to overtake us, but also know that, you know, we have the power to do it. You know, at the end of the day, like the brother was going into, that's why I want to stop him, because I just told him to read that same exact scripture that he was finna quote, you know, and that's the spirit, because at the end of the day, again, our battles are not physical battles, you know. That's why it was good that he read Ephesians 6 and 12 first, because our fight is more spiritual than anything, and we got to learn how to take back the power to fight these battles. It's not going to be physically, it's going to be spiritually. You want to overcome certain lust and temptations and desires, you got to go through the spirit, right? Go give me Romans 7 and 14 real quick.
Hello, y'all.
Love you too, brother.
Y'all be safe.
Romans 7 and 14 real quick, right? Because like he said, like you said, excuse me, not even him, you said it, that it's one and the same. You can't have one without the other, right? If you're going to have a burger, you can't eat it without butter. You know, that's just the truth. Lettuce are buns. Are they? Yeah.
Yeah, lettuce
Can't be a
burger.
bun now. Now, we gonna, that's a water wet conversation, so we can ride with that. But read that, Romans 7 and 14.
Romans 7 and 14, it says, for we know that the law is
The
spiritual.
law is what?
The
Law is spiritual.
Uh-huh.
But I am carnal, sold under sin.
But even though I am carnal, my warfare is not carnal, like we just read in 2 Corinthians 10. The law is spiritual, and the law of God leads us to act out the spirit through the flesh, right? That's why.
So how did y'all end up here? Speaking of, so like, how did y'all all three meet? Decide to do this on the regular? How did you meet like-minded men? Like, what made you stop from wherever you was at?
the spirit. That's the only answer I got. It's the spirit that
Now
quickened it.
tell me.
I'm telling you, it's the
how,
spirit.
and how it
Like,
played out in the truth, like the spirit led to the physical.
right,
Was we all believed in the truth,
right.
and that truth kind of brought us together. And that truth being the truth of the Bible.
What did
The
Christ
spirit.
say? You shall know the
So
truth.
did y'all meet at church or was you?
Nah. So we all went to college together, but we didn't know. Of course, they twins, so
Yeah.
they knew each other. But I didn't know them two like well. I spoke to this brother, you know, on occasion, but this brother act like he ain't know me every time he seen me because he was, you know, in a different world at the time. So, but nonetheless, like I say, it's the spirit because again, we didn't have like fellowship on a regular basis when we went to college together. It wasn't until after they graduated and during my senior year at college where I started reading the Bible a little bit more, you know, and I had some friends put me on to the Bible and the truth of the Bible a long time before that, but it wasn't until my senior year when brothers was finna graduate that I really started just reading it more and more and more. Time went by, and then I re-seen the brothers on social media, and then this brother reached out to me to kind of like join a group chat because he seen that I went to Fort Valley and he seen that, you know, I was kind of, you know, on a different path, so he added us into a group chat. And in that chat with our other friends that we went to school with, us three, just according to the Spirit, just kind of gel well together and stuck together like glue. And it's been like that ever since.
And I will say too, you know, like we talked about earlier, this thing that we're doing right here isn't very common. So when you do find or you do notice people that are interested in conversations like this, it sticks out, and you kind of mark those people, those individuals. And this is one of the reasons why I reached out to the start a group chat, is because like you want to stay in touch with folks like that, just to make you sharper, to make them sharper, to hold you accountable, to hold them accountable, things like that, right? But I would say personally, growing up, I always felt a conviction to do something like this, right? I always felt a conviction to be more obedient than the colloquial Christian church would have us be, if that makes sense, right? I know, like, in today's church, it's way different from, you know, the church before as well, but in today's church, you see a lot of hypocrisy, you see a lot of different, you see a lot of people that live in a way that is not conducive to what they preach, right? And I know from a young age, it had to be more. It couldn't be this easy to obtain the blessings from God, right? I knew I couldn't be out here doing what I want to do, and He was just gonna bless me or whatever, right? I knew that there was something that was required of me, and that's one thing that we teach, that there is something that's required of all of us, and that is to be obedient, right? And so a lot of people miss that message and wonder why a lot of things happen, right? One example, somebody close to you might die. The first thing somebody might do is blame God for it, right? Why me? Why this person, right? And a lot of people don't stop to realize, like, man, I don't
turn it into a fucking
like,
werewolf.
I'm not entitled to nothing that God gives me, right? But if we had that mindset, we would fix ourselves instead of living however we want to live and still trying to obtain the blessings. You know what I'm saying? Because I think with that mentality, it gets a lot of people to deter themselves from God, not understanding the relationship dynamic, right? Just like our own parents, right? We wouldn't be out here disobeying them, expecting good things to come from them, being blessed and all of that stuff, unless you're like silver spoon, you know, spoiled brat, you know what I'm saying? But usually people in our communities have a structure to where you're gonna listen to mom, you're gonna listen to dad, right? And you're not gonna receive nothing good per se until you did something that required that blessing. You know what I'm saying?
Matter of fact, even speaking on the left-hand side of things, we had a sister earlier we was trying to talk to, and her philosophy was God only does us good, you know? And it's man that does us wrong. It's never God. But according to the Bible, that's not necessarily true. I want to read you this.
Oh yeah, you ain't gotta read me like that. I don't read them stories.
Look, Isaiah 45:7. No, I know you read it, but just for the sake of just getting it off my chest, you know, because again, the left-hand side of things, people don't understand that the Most High God is the one who does all this, right?
I feel like mine's coming up, like my relationship with God was different because I think I questioned a lot of things, and I had an uncle, God rest his soul, like loved him to death, and he was very devout, and it was kind of like a Bible thumper. But I was questioning things like, man, you know, I've lived in different places, and I see people whose gods look like them, it's a reflection of them, their names, their likeness, their images, and all that stuff. And it just never really made sense to me, like how it's like, this is what you must do, or you will be damned to hell if you're not. And I couldn't get with following it because like they don't look like me, they don't have the names that I have.
Right, that's a fact though.
So that was like an identity thing for me coming up.
So look, I was about to. So they both gave you their spiel, right? I was about to just keep it 100 with you, right?
Well, I can say the same.
Hold on. Y'all had y'all chance, guys. You had y'all chance. So look, I'm gonna keep it 100. You ain't say that though, but I'm gonna keep it 100, right? Keep it at 100.
That right?
So you know how algorithms work, right?
Yeah.
Brothers, for example, he's all the way from, what's your hometown?
Nashville, Georgia.
Nashville, Georgia, right?
It's in Nashville, Georgia?
Right off the Georgia.
It's in the sticks.
Oh, okay.
It's in the sticks. It's in the middle of nowhere. You probably would, you know.
All right, brother.
Going to Valdosta, you're going to pass it, right? And not care.
Miracle,
but
y'all.
anyway.
My leg. I hurt my leg. Where's the other brother with the hurt leg? Are you standing on your leg?
Yeah, the Most High God healing me.
Did you still got the tat? You got that off, you don't?
Look, the Most High God.
That's
you know,
right. Yes,
He's
he
healing me.
is a healer. Yes,
Right?
he
He
is.
is.
Yes,
So
he is.
check it out. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it a buck, right? With algorithms, you start finding people that are like-minded, right? It's not too many people that's teaching that the people of the Bible are us,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I said the truth of the Bible really brought us together, right? Of course, that spirit led, because the spirit got to give you revelation, right? But once I found out, I started preaching this to all my followers. He started preaching it. They, you know what I'm saying? They started reposting. He started preaching it. So I didn't even know this brother. I met him because I saw that he was preaching
Let me
it.
stand over here up under this
Right?
mist.
Okay, come on, you good.
So I didn't even know this brother, but he started preaching it. I started following him, hit him up. Now we know each other in person.
Yeah.
Right.
So almost like how you had that conviction to come down here, that certain feeling gives us a conviction to actually reach out to one another and make it real, right?
Right.
Now, with that being said, how we started street teaching, right, is because we saw other men, older men that were street teaching, and we kind of reverenced them for doing that act. And like the brother said, it was something in us, even when we were kind of in the world, that we wanted to be a difference, right? We wanted to be bold, right? There's not too many avenues you can go to besides coming to a street corner and being bold, right? So we wanted to be bold, so that's what we did. We kind of got together and we kind of talked about doctrine. We kind of talked about our beliefs and the importance of how we have to get it out there. And we all felt the same, and so we just jumped off the porch. Some of us, we didn't think we was ready. Some of us, we did. But we made the decision as a whole to jump off the porch together, right? And start having conversations like this with people. And from that point on, we worked out kinks as it came. We do get in some arguments out here, right? But we try to, keep it level.
Very seldom,
Right.
though.
Well,
Very seldom.
Now, because we haven't perfected our speech, but we know how to be peacemakers, and we know how to be cordial with people and reason with people.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it was a lot of, because we were so zealous, we were so passionate.
Yeah.
It was like, man, we're tearing down the lies, and we
Off
don't
real.
care who want to hear it, right?
Off real.
But now it's more so a reasoning.
Sure.
We want you to believe. You know what I'm saying? We want you to see the truth. So we're
Yeah.
more patient, and that comes with learning the fruits of the spirit and things of that nature.
Well, we still want to tear down the lies for sure and all things. Not saying that you were saying that we don't, but I guess
it's a way
what
to
he's
maneuver with
right.
some
What
Yeah,
he's
for
saying
sure,
is
for sure.
we definitely have learned how to maneuver with everybody that we encounter, because all we got to do is just see where you at. You know what I'm saying, in the spirit wise. And I'm not talking about I'm giving you a spiritual reading or anything. We just ask questions, have conversation, and then based on the answers, that's kind of how we gauge how we'll, like cut this cake apart,
Yeah.
Meet you where you
Meet
at.
you where you at.
I just got a question though.
Your dad, what was that? So like your dad, for example, he came up to us and he was like, man, I don't walk past y'all 5 times. Y'all ain't stopped me not once. And over the years, we've kind of just let people come to us. You know what I'm saying? Because he felt like he would be infringing on us to just, stop us and talk to us after, if he see us, we having a conversation.
Yeah.
But over the years, we kind of see that we infringing on somebody else, like they just enjoying their trip down. But he said something that we took into account is, this is what we out here for. We're out here to interrupt people's day for a couple of seconds, right?
Mhm.
We're out here to be bold in that aspect. So it's just finding that sweet spot or that balance of evangelism, you know what I'm saying? So that we can reach people. Because some people might have the conviction like you, but not be as bold to just come down and be like, hey man, what y'all got going on?
Right.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
but you get that from your father for sure, because he walked by that last time and he said, I didn't walk by y'all 5 times. Why ain't y'all stop me? And then you came down here walking doing the same thing, and you was just like, I gotta ask, So it, like you say, at the end of the day, like the brother said, I'm gonna just say it all goes back to the spirit. It's the spirit that really led us to do it.
Can I ask you a question? So I know you were saying like, back in the time, you were saying it just didn't make sense for you to follow something, especially if the people didn't look like you, right? Would it be a difference to you? Would it mean more to you, even if it didn't? Even if, for instance, if you read something and it's saying do this or you'll be damned, right? Would it mean more to you to follow that if the person looked like you, or the people that you were reading about looked like you, if the God looked like you?
So I will say that I always have identified as a Christian because it was a spirit that I feel like people who look like me, who started with like role models, mother figures, father figures, people who I wanted to be like, follow. Um, but yeah, I think that's just human nature. Like, if you're somewhere in a foreign land, you will look for something that is some semblance of familiarity.
Right.
And then it's like a subconscious way of like, I can trust this thing.
Yeah.
You may or may not be able to, but that does start to, it opens the door for that.
And so I asked that question because, for instance, I give you an example. Like, if my mom told me, if there was like, if we were walking down the street and there's a bottle on the floor right here, and my mom told me, hey, go pick that bottle up and throw it in that trash can, right? I'd be more susceptible to do it for her versus like a random white guy that tell me, hey, you know what I'm saying? Even though I might not want to pick up trash, but because I'm hearing it from my mom, you know what I'm saying? I give her that respect of, you know, doing something that she asked for because I know it's gonna bring something greater, right? Because I look out for her, she looks out for me, and it's a mutual agreement, right? And it, like you said, just nature, human nature, you know what I'm saying? We're more susceptible to doing something like that. But I say that to say this, right? That's one of the main points we come out here. We reintroduce the Bible to pull that because a lot of times people stray away from the Bible for that same reason. Why should I do that? What do I get out of that? But when you reintroduce it, like this is your culture, this is your heritage, right? Now they're like, okay, I might can get down with that now that I know this is where I come from, right? Because a lot of it's cliche. People say all the time, but you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of us don't know where we've been, so we just out here kind of winging it.
But that's what I was gonna go into. Well, I wasn't gonna go into it until it was invited. But since it was invited, I'll go into it. The main lie that we come out here to dispel is the colorism. When I say colorism, I'm talking about the colorism of Christ, right? Because a lot of people who claim they're Christians and they follow Christ, like you say, a lot of the images that we see of who the world calls Jesus Christ are images of a white man, And when you go into the history of his lineage and his people, all of those details and important factors will point into an opposite direction.
Right, and
know?
it's like, so if there, you want to follow all the other things.
Right,
and it's
right.
not like, in a way that's palatable for me as a young child. You trying to tell me if I don't do this, and that, then I'm just going to burn in hell. But I know my spirit. I know I'm kind. I know I'm loving. I know I got all of these good intentions for people. But if I don't do these things, then damn it all.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we try to do. So can you give me the book of First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse number 10, right? First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 48, right?
So like,
and give me First Maccabees 2
risk it all for a white guy.
Yeah,
Right.
Like, that's how it really is, though.
Think about it. Why his name Jacob, but he stayed over there?
Yeah. But give me First Maccabees 2 and 10, and you give me First Maccabees 3 and 48. And these are the why I want to read these, because these are scriptures that I use for reference when people kind of be like, hey, what's going on here? Like, talking about why is the God that y'all serving look totally different from y'all when every nation on the face of the earth has a God that resembles them but us, And that was, again, a lot of that conviction that we had.
And you can read in the Bible, and that's the other thing too, because you can tell by the language in the Bible that there must be other gods.
Right. There are other gods.
So it's like, so how do I know that I'm doing the right thing by following something that doesn't look like me, and I'm not abandoning where I came from, especially knowing the history of African Americans.
Right. So our biggest mission is to teach the people that the Bible is for us, by us, FUBU. You know what I'm saying? It's our heritage and culture book, and that's the truth. And people deny it because the world has whitewashed and dumbed down the Bible. And by whitewashing and dumbing down, meaning that they changed a lot of the truth of the Bible to make it more of a religion for everybody instead of looking at it as a history book for a certain group of people, right? And their figureheads, right? And their God and their connection with their God, right? The laws he gave them, the clothes they wore, the food they ate, the holy days, that they celebrated, right? They removed us from all that, and they did that because of this, right? Read this book, First Maccabees 3.
Look at First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 48.
And laid open the book of the law.
So the book of the law is what we know as the Torah, which are the first 5 books of the Bible, right? It contains Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? That was our book of the law, right? Read.
Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
So the heathen, right, which are people outside of Israelites, they sought to paint the image of their likeness. And what they did is they did this thing called iconoclasm or whitewashing. You know what I'm saying? And they inserted themselves as the figures that were mentioned in the Torah, the law book of the Israelites, right? And they made our children and their children's children believe that, oh, these are the people because of the tactics that they use to insert themselves in a book. And that's why we're thousands of years later and we're believing in a false image of a figurehead of a religion, you know, when in reality, Jesus Christ, who the world calls Jesus Christ, didn't look like what people paint him out to be. Caesar Borgia, you know, white guy with long stringy dog hair. That's not the description. That's the truth. Sure. That's not the description of how he is in the scriptures, right? It's the same thing with the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I know there's other people that think like me because I'm not the only one that thinks like this. But when I was in church, I was about 12 years old. I remember sitting in the pew. This is a true story. I remember sitting in the pew crying, right? I was crying, thinking of God and thinking how I love him and I want to obey him and serve him. You know, the image I had in my head at the time was of a white guy. I really was. At the time I was sitting there crying and thinking about how much I wanted to serve and obey him. I was thinking of this white guy with long hair and a full beard. And that's a part of the reason why we come out here to cast down the lies. And we got charts like this to show people that God's people, they look a multitude of ways. But there's a truth out here that God has a certain people group. There's a truth out here that God's people historically looked a certain way. And Christ is a part of God's people. So the main thing that we try to do is teach people the truth, right? Read this in 1 Maccabees 2:10.
1 Maccabees 2:10, it says, what nation has not had a part in her kingdom, right, and gotten her spoils?
Right. What nation had not had a part in taking God's people captive, in oppressing God's people, and teaching them the lies, whitewashing them, or brainwashing them to believe that their God is something that he's not. He looks like something that he's not. He let us do things that he told us not to do, right? And it's just not just people, white-skinned people. It's even people that are the same color as us that aren't our people that deceive us and oppress us, right? Because you go to book of Romans chapter 8 and verse 6, it says all that are of Israel are not Israel. Just because someone's your color doesn't mean that they're your kin. And that's the thing that we try to get people to, right? You can read the precept.
Zechariah chapter 11 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty.
Right.
And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord,
mm-hmm,
for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not.
Right.
Right. Really just saying, in layman's terms, police brutality, right? It says their possessors slay them, but hold themselves not guilty. And they feel like they can do that because they feel like there's no God, there's nobody that's going to stick up for them. They won't even stick up for themselves. Which is why you see us losing court cases, which is why you see us with black on black crime, which is why you see us, you know, always succumbing to oppression wherever we go. We can go to China, they're going to oppress us. We can go to Ukraine, they're going to oppress us. They're going to oppress us here, right? And so the things like this that are written in the Bible of the people of the Bible let us know that there's nothing new under the sun, that we just going through what our ancestors have went through. Right. And that's how we can that's how we can gravitate towards this word, because we're the only ones on the earth that it really makes sense to. When Christ said he's coming back to bind up the brokenhearted, it's a nation of people that are brokenhearted.
Right.
It's a nation of people that are captive in prison houses. Like he said, he's coming to set the prisoners free. Statistically, there's a nation of people that are in the prison houses, right? So when we look at all the things contained in the word, we see that there's only one nation of people that can really relate to it. Now, they could try to philosophize and say that we're all enslaved to our sin and captive to our sin and all that. But when you look at the context of which everything was written.
So you don't feel like it could be like Palestinians or anything like that?
So like he's read earlier, the Bible said we were cursed and we were spread and scattered into all nations via the slave trades of sub-Saharan and the tri-Atlantic, right? Transatlantic. So we could be everywhere, but all I'm saying is wherever we at, we oppressed. If we are in Gaza, the darker skinned melanated people, guess what? They're in the hoods in Gaza. Yeah. They're living. If we're in Brazil, guess what? We're living in the mountains, right? House this big.
The ancient Palestinians were in us. You know
so
what I'm saying?
you can tell who we are scattered in the earth by the curses that were put on us.
Right.
In the
Not only
Bible.
that, anybody you think, right? For instance, the Palestinians, people might say they're being oppressed, which they probably are. But if you take a Negro and you put him in Palestine, I guarantee you that Palestine's gonna oppress that Negro. So they can get oppressed by whoever, but they still gonna oppress that Negro.
For sure.
Because no matter where we go as Negroes or African Americans, we're always gonna be treated worse than the worst people that's there. And that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
That now,
Hey, that's a loaded thing. I don't know if I agree with that whole statement.
I mean, so you can go to certain places like Japan and right, where they say, oh, if you go there, the women
I
love
mean,
black
oppression
men.
is kind of like somewhat of a willing act, you know.
it is.
And
Wait.
especially if you know your history, you
Yeah.
don't have to decide to be oppressed.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna agree with you because see, oppression is a willing act, regardless of what people think about it. Like when what's his name said slavery was a choice
Kanye.
years ago. Yeah, Kanye. When he said that, people was ridiculing. What you mean slavery was a choice? You bugged out, cool, you know. But the truth is, it was a choice. You know, oppression is a choice. So what I mean by that is,
I don't know if I agree with that.
no, look,
either.
hear me out.
Because they tried to run and they could not. There's a whole manipulation of
Right.
physicalities and mentally that goes into the thing.
Right. Hear me out though. Hear me out. This is what I mean by that. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 28. Give me verse 1 and give me verse 15. This is what I mean by everything that happened to our people was a choice. It was a choice that we made. You may disagree right now, but hear me out. Hear me out. This is what I mean, right?
28 and 1.
Start at 1. Start at verse 1.
Uh,
I know it sounds crazy,
Right.
and I know it sounds kind of cooned out, but
Not cool.
look, check me out. Look, check this out.
Deuteronomy 28 and 1, it says, and it shall come to pass.
Now, before you read, this is a passage. Deuteronomy 28 is a chapter in the book of Deuteronomy that Moses is reciting to the people. He's letting the people know the things that come straight from the Most High God. So God is telling his people these things by way of Moses, right? Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth.
Right, keep reading.
And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So to hearken, of course, means to hear, right? The Lord told Moses to tell us, if we listen to his commandments, we will be a blessed people. And we're going to be overflown with these blessings. I mean, we're going to be the head and not the tail. We're going to be above and not beneath. We're going to be the lender and not the borrower. The same things that we hear in church today when it's almost time for offering. You know, the same things that the pastor tells us, right? The problem is, again, going back to the context of everything. Like we say, the context matters. The context when God was saying that was to a certain people group. It wasn't for everybody. It was to a certain people group, telling this people group, listen, if you do this, you'll get this. But then God goes on to tell Moses to say this. Go down to verse 15.
Look at Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. It says, but it shall come to pass.
Wait. But, anytime somebody say but, you know it's going to come with, all right, but so keep reading.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice
If you
of the Lord thy
don't
God,
hear what I'm telling you,
to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses,
all these what?
all these
These
curses,
All these blessings.
all these curses,
God can do no wrong.
all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
But it shall come to pass, if we didn't follow God's commandments, if we didn't obey his voice, we would be
Which book is
cursed.
This
Deuteronomy chapter 28.
so like,
It's in the Old Testament.
right.
Yeah. But again, it's the same thing. It's nothing new under the sun. Same thing of old, same thing in the new. Like the brother read in Romans 7 earlier. The reason that our people are cursed and are gunned down and have been captives and slaves in these lands and have been taken by their will, we ran, go to verse 25 real quick. Read what it says in Deuteronomy 28:25.
I was gonna read 45 real quick.
Well, jump to verse 25 real quick. I'll let you go right back to 45. Just jump to 25 real quick. Because I wanna get that.
Be smitten before thine enemies.
Right.
Thou shalt go out one way against them.
We're going out one way against them.
And flee 7 ways before them.
So we coming out one way, but soon as we see them, oh snap, we going out 7 ways. You know what I'm saying? We running different directions, all over, scattering, trying to get away from the oppressor, right?
and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
We were moved into every kingdom of the earth. because we didn't obey God's commandments. That's why we were slaves in these lands. That's why I say ultimately it was a choice. Because again, God is the one who gives the prophecy. He's the one who tells us what's going to happen. It doesn't matter if it happens right then and there or thousands of years later, it's going to happen because the Lord's word does not come back to him void, right? Read what you got in 45?
Right. Verse 45, it says, moreover, all these curses, talking about these curses that were going to be placed on us, shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Verse 46.
That's the point.
It says, and they shall be upon thee for
They,
a sign
the curses,
and a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
for how long?
Forever.
When you go into the Hebrew, that word forever is olam. It's the same word that's used in Genesis chapter 12 or Genesis 9 when it's talking about the rainbow, right? When it rains, occasionally,
Covenant.
do you still see a bow in the clouds? It's the same word that when the Lord said he'll put a bow in the clouds forever, it's the same exact word that's used in that passage. So the same way we see the rainbow to this day, which that was told thousands and thousands and hundreds of years ago, it's the same thing with the curses of Deuteronomy. They will be on us forever. So it doesn't matter if that was prophesied way back when. Oh, that's the Old Testament. Oh, that was before Christ. No, God's word supersedes all.
And then one thing I will say too is when you start reading the Bible, right? And we encourage everybody to start reading the Bible from Genesis. I know a lot of times the colloquial church will have you start reading it in the New Testament, but it's important to start it from the Old Testament because you get a good synopsis and context of everything that's going on.
Yeah,
and so
better foundation,
one thing
sure.
you'll find out is that the Israelites went through the same thing over
And
over again.
This said it would be for a sign and for a wonder.
Right.
So when you read about these people and you see how they're doing the same things that we as a black community do today, right? That's even confirmation in itself. But just to know that they would disobey God as a nation, get sent into captivity, and then they would get delivered from it.
Right.
And then it would get sent into captivity again, get delivered from it, right?
Right.
And so
Is this like, and I'm gonna do my research on that, but is this like a forever
It's
until?
not.
Well, wait. So it'll be
Like, are we waiting on just a cycle to get completed?
nah. We
Yeah.
waiting on the time that the Lord releases Christ to come back
Brother
and
Christ
deliver
come
us,
back.
right?
You-
Because go back to Jeremiah 32 for me. Go to Jeremiah 32 for me real quick. Can you give me Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse number start at 16, right? Again, we're waiting for our people to choose life and do right? Go to Deuteronomy 30